Well, here we are at Module 4. I just had a few things I wanted to review with you. So, good morning, everybody. I hope you're ready for a new module opening today. You probably noticed that there are 2 chapter listings now for your textbook. That's because there's 2 editions that are out there. I think I explained to you that I had originally ordered the 2nd edition so that you could use past books with no problem at all. But the bookstore ordered the 3rd edition. So you have both going on. So what I've listed is I've listed both books, and I've taken and done a side-by-side with all the chapters. So you'll see the 2nd edition and the 3rd edition, and whatever book you have, you use whether it's the 2nd or 3rd edition. If that's something hard to understand, call me please and let's go over that. It's not difficult. It just gave you the 2nd edition, the page and the chapter that your question is on and that the chapter is on. So call me if you have any questions about that. And also the same things on chapter 3. It works the same way. The chapters are not exactly the same as they were previously. The next thing I just wanted to mention to you is the questions that you're answering. On critical thinking, it's extremely important that you understand that if you don't use examples from your reading and what you view, you're not going to get credit. And I've been generous so far, but I probably won't be in the future. So not as generous anyway, because the whole thing with critical thinking is that you have to learn that you don't just take it off the top of your head. And the question I would ask you is like I used to ask our kids at the dinner table, and then they start asking each other and still do, is where'd you get your answer? Where'd you get your information? How do you know that's true? And so I'm asking you that. How do you know that what you have said is true? How do I know it is? Yeah, I can give you all kinds of information. I can tell you that the sky really isn't blue, that it's really, black. And I'm going to tell you that's the truth. And you're going to say to me, how do you know that? Well, it's a stupid question, a stupid example. But anyway, that's the point, is that if you don't use examples, and that's the first thing I look for, I won't even read your question. So, or your answer to the question. So if you want to discuss it with me, please call me and do so. I don't mind discussing your answers if you don't like the grade that you get, and a lot of you know that already. So be prepared, and this week some of you will see on that critical thinking that your scores are lower, and that's a 3-point question, and those 3 points can go real quickly to move you to a not good grade. So be careful with it, please, because I want everybody to get an A. Okay, the next thing I wanted to talk about was the difference between biological and psychosocial. And the discussion question dealt with that also. Psychosocial rehabilitation is like an umbrella. It's an umbrella over a whole lot of things. And those things can be social functioning within a community. They can be getting counseling treatment, meeting with a therapist, in either group counseling or in individual counseling. And for each person, it's a different set of rules. So the total umbrella of the psychosocial is what are all the things that's going to help the individual be able to function and be able to live on their own and be able to have a successful life and feel good about themselves. So each of those issues is just part of the total program. In the past, it wasn't that way. You might just have drugs that you took and that was going to be the panacea for all of your ills, or it might be that you would once a week, once a month have some sort of counseling program, or it could be a combination of those. But this is far broader than that. It could be that like the 143 class saw when they went to the Houston Family Resource Center, that Zumba became the answer for depression for a whole lot of women in the south end of the county, because being able to be out in the community and seeing other people and making friends was a real cure for a deadly kind of situation, which is depression. And that is the largest mental health issue that we have in this country, is depression. So as you look at psychosocial, It's broader. And remember, the person who selects what's important for their being able to function is the client. And your job is to elicit that information from the person you're working with. You can make suggestions. You can come up with saying, would you like for me to? And instead of giving them a phone number, you say, how about if I call for you and see if we could go together perhaps and meet with the head of Salvation Army or whatever else it is that the client needs. Because it's getting off your rear and going out and doing something sometimes. And that is a great part of psychosocial. It's not always just sitting at a desk and giving answers to people or handing them a list of sources that they might use. So remember that as you answer those questions. And on the biological is twofold. Genetic diseases, things that are physiologically induced within the body, those kinds of things. And biological can include anything physiological, number one, and anything genetic. So how do you treat those, and how are they different than the total psychosocial development? And just remember, the psychosocial part deals with the whole picture, of which a biological issue is just one little part. And so when you look at schizophrenia, for instance, that is a genetically caused type of issue. Probably bipolar is also. There's not as much evidence as there is for schizophrenic behavior. So be really careful when you put a label on, that you look up your sources and know what's what. Phobias and things of that sort are sociologically caused. They're things that come from being out in the community. I mean, I refuse to get rid of my fear of snakes. I absolutely am not going to do what you have to do to get rid of that phobia. And that means picking up a snake and petting its little head. And the answer is, I'm not doing it. So it's that simple sometimes, the phobia. Can I get rid of it if I wanted to pick up a snake and wrap it around my neck and stuff? Probably. Do I want to? Absolutely not. So you have to think through phobias. They're not genetic. They're not biological. They may have some biological effects that can cause your body to make some changes because of stress and fear and those kinds of issues. But they are caused from the psychosocial part of what we do. The other one that I was going to mention is attachments. I have a real bug about attachments. When you don't enter something into Blackboard and you send me an attachment, first of all, you usually don't have your name on what the document is. That's the attachment. So this wonderful attachment can appear on the desktop. I have no idea whose it is. I have to go all the way back and look. And if I have more than one attachment that I've put onto the desktop, it's a real nightmare to figure out whose it is. But then I have to read it on the desktop, and then I have to go all the way back and remember what I just read to put into Blackboard. So don't do it. I'm not going to open them. I made my peace with that about a year ago. I just absolutely do not wish to get an attachment. Copy and paste is fine. If you have to, you can send me an email. But don't do it without asking me first. I want to know who's sending me an email, and don't just send your things that way. If you don't know how to put it in Blackboard, call me. Let's talk about copy and paste, or how to just simply write anything that you have on top of your Blackboard assignment area. It's not that hard to do, and we can walk through it. So anyway, no attachments, please. I've really enjoyed talking to many of you, and you're doing really well. I don't respond much to your discussions unless you really say something that may not be true. Then I probably will say something. But discussions are for you to talk to each other, and I learn from what you have to say. And sometimes I look up and research what some of your comments and things are. And I know some of your peers do too. So keep them coming. They're very, very interesting. I will comment on your other assignments most of the time. If you need the names of the topics for your term paper, I will be putting them on Blackboard again, and they'll be there for you. But write them down somewhere so that you don't lose the list. Okay, you have a great week, and I'll look forward to talking to those of you who contact me. Thanks.